This video has been sponsored by Whatnot. More on them at the end of the video. So a little while ago, you probably saw the video I did where I got some art done of what a Paradox, Entei, and Raikou would look like to go alongside Suicune. They weren't the only Johto legends, though, that I got Paradox Pokemon for. I also did one for Ho-Oh and Lugia with the incredible artist Alex Allen. Links in the description. Check them out. They are amazing. They did like my whole Pokemon Tempest series. The reason for me getting commissions for artwork for Lugia and Ho-Oh, which I will show to you pretty soon, the reason I commissioned them is because I have a belief, and I've had this belief pretty much since Legends Arceus came out, which is that we will absolutely, in my opinion, get a Pokemon Legends Johto game before this generation is done. You might think I'm absolutely off my rocker. I've heard people talk about Let's Go Johto. I think you're off your rocker. So I do want to know what you think in the comments down below, but I want to run you through my ideas, what that story could look like, what the beats would be, why I think it makes so much sense, and then yeah, show off some cool artwork of Ho-Oh and Lugia. So the first question is why? Why do I think there's going to even be another Legends Johto game? And that is actually based on the sales data of the game. At first, it might not look like it sold particularly well relative to other Pokemon games, until you realize that Legends Arceus is a single copy game. Diamond and Pearl, many people buy both Diamond and Pearl. In fact, a lot of buyers buy both versions. That's why they sell them in two versions. So for a single copy game, it sold incredibly well. Okay, sure, but so did a bunch of other Pokemon games, Toby. Why a Legends game? Well, two, the Legends game was pretty much unanimously loved. Most people really loved Legends Arceus. I felt like it was a good direction for Pokemon to go. Pokemon could do with a little bit of good reputation right now, given that between Pokemon Home's slow coming out and the release of Pokemon Scarlet just being like, ugh, what is this game? The fact that everything's just been quiet for a little while because obviously the DLC isn't coming till the end of the year. Exit a few years earlier. Pokemon needs to do some things to bolster its reputation, especially next to its neighbor Zelda, who is looking so good that I made a whole second channel for Legend of Zelda, which is doing really well. Please, if you like Zelda, go subscribe to it. I'm having so much fun with it. Okay, but Toby, I still feel like this is all pretty circumstantial. Sure. Okay, well, how about this? The next game coming out, the next main series Pokemon game, will be Generation 10. And based on how it lines up with the timings of previous generations being about 3 years each, that would put it in 2025. However, if they push it by just a couple of months from November into either January, as they did with Legends Arceus, or delaying it a whole year into the holiday period of the following year, 2026, well, that means that Generation 10 hits the 30th anniversary of Pokemon. That is a marketing opportunity for Pokemon, a chance to really promote a new game on potentially a new system after the Switch. Let's be real, they're probably already working on Generation 10, so they need something to kind of fill the time in between. They can't go like another 3 years with releasing nothing. They need to release new games with new Pokemon, specifically because new Pokemon sell new Pokemon plushes and Pokemon cards and Pokemon episodes. And a good way to do that has historically been those regional variants and regional evolutions. So revisiting an old region like Johto, for example, a region that not only has that Gen 1-2 nostalgia of the Pokemania of the 90s and early 2000s, but also is the game that has not been visited in the longest. We've been to Kanto most recently in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and Hoenn all the way back with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Heart Gold and Soul Silver was the last time we went to Johto, so it kind of lines up there. But then finally, and I guess my final point to all of this is aesthetically, the Johto region is an awful lot like the Sinnoh region, which makes sense. They're the two closest regions. There's even like this little space between them called the Sinjo Ruins, which is an event area that was referenced in Pokemon Legends Arceus in one of the ancient verses that you can find in the ground. And yeah, it makes sense. They're both based on Japanese areas of Japan. And it's even sort of being hinted at in the DLC. And I know you're thinking, Toby, that's ridiculous. The DLC is not hinting towards the next Pokemon game, except it did with the Isle of Armor, with the honey trees and the bear that had strong style and agile style, which we saw in Pokemon Legends Arceus. And then the Crown Tundra, I've done a whole video on how the whole of the Crown Tundra is like a big old like nod and reference to the stuff coming in Scarlet and Violet. You know, the crowned legendary Pokemon. Terra Crowns, legendary Pokemon that are ridden on a big open world, Regidrago and Lecky being sort of like analogous, is that the right word? I don't know, for Koraidon and Miraidon and the past and the future. It all kind of ties in. They love doing this kind of thing, Game Freak. It's what they're known for doing. It's actually really funny. It's what they're known for doing, and it is the thing that Pokemon speculators on the internet are most criticized for calling out, even though They're known for doing it. They do it every game. Anyway, that's a whole other ramble. And when you look to the Kitsukami DLC, it is very Japanese inspired. So the idea of going to a Japanese region for the next game, yeah, lines up pretty well. But that aesthetics thing is actually a really big deal because in terms of developing a new Pokemon game, while they're working on Generation 10, they want to put as many resources and as much time into that as possible. So a really good way to do that is to copy and paste Legends Arceus, a game that definitely already works and that people unanimously liked and that sold really well, and reuse many of those assets in creating the world of an ancient Johto that has many of the same environments. Obviously, they'd still need to create new environments. They want to be creating new areas, but with the world of Legends operating as like a hub world with Jubilife Village and then 5 or 6 areas that you could travel to, this would be the same. You're only looking at really creating sort of 5 to 10 areas and then combining them through plot details. Plus, when you think of the branding of Legends, the first game that jumps to mind is the Johto region. It's the region of like ancient legend and myth. Ecruteak City being specifically the hub of that, so I see Ecruteak City as definitely this game's equivalent of Jubilife Village. Imagine being in an Ecruteak City where both of the towers still stand. The sense of impending doom and looming disasters that's coming. Also, you can still use time-space distortions because Johto has a mythical Pokemon focused on time travel. That, of course, being Celebi. And I know there are naysayers out there. There are people who say, but Toby, come on, Black and White is next to get a remake. Gen 5 is getting a remake next. And while I do think, Gen 5 will be on the remake kind of docket after that, they're not going to release nothing for the next couple of years. And it's way too soon to get a Gen 5 re-release. My suspicion is that revisiting Gen 5 will be part of the Generation 10 30th anniversary celebrations because it's the halfway point, and it's a great way to show off where Pokemon was at before it transitioned into 3D to where it is now in the future with the 10th generation in the 30th anniversary. So Johto is a great pit stop on the way there. In addition to all of this, Lugia and Ho-Oh have earned new forms. Mewtwo has Mega Evolution, Groudon and Kyogre have Primal Reversion, Origin forms for Dialga and Palkia, the box art legendaries Reshiram and Zekrom, they both have Cura fusions. Solgaleo and Lunala also have Necrozma fusions. When it comes to Xerneas and Yveltal, they have a sort of inactive modes in the forms of the inactive mode Xerneas, the tree, and then the Egg of Destruction, the Cocoon of Destruction, that's it, it's Cocoon. And then, of course, finally, there's Sword and Shield, where Zacian and Zamazenta have forms that are sort of powered up and then powered down. Oh, then I suppose, of course, we also have Scarlet and Violet, where they've come with a whole bunch of forms depending on what way you're traversing with these Pokemon, plus they've got their in-battle mode. So Lugia and Ho-Oh are genuinely owed new forms. Okay, I don't need to explain anymore. I think this kind of sells itself. If you're not with me at this point, maybe you won't like my Zelda channel, because it is called Absurd Zelda Theories, and it's all very absurd. So, absurd Pokemon theories. Here we go. What would a Legends Johto game look like? Well, as I mentioned before, I think Ecruteak City would be the hub village. Ecruteak Village would be the home of where you are in Johto. I have heard, by the way, and I can't remember who said it. Someone said it on Twitter. I thought it was a brilliant idea. The idea of it being a prequel to Legends Arceus, so Commander Kamado and other relevant characters can still pop up. I'm not going to work with that because 1, it wasn't my idea, and 2, yes, they'll be copying and pasting assets and characters, but let's try and kind of stay focused on the unique story of this game. We will see a couple of the characters of the Johto region in the ancient past. I think no-brainers are the champion Lance, much like how the champion Cynthia was, of course, we saw her ancestors in Legends Arceus. So I think Lance and Claire of the Dragon's Den, I think the Dragon's Den and the Dragon Tamers of the Johto region will be a big element of this. I think also we could probably see an ancestor to Morty. He's a character who's pretty tied to the kind of ancestry of the region, and I think he'll be really interesting. But then there's also characters like Norman and Valerie, who are characters who previously, they are said in their description to have come from Johto. So I think it'd be really cool to see their ancestors in Johto. I also think it would be really cool to see an ancestral version or a time-displaced version of Emmett to go alongside Ingo, who appeared in Legends Arceus. Maybe they could even reunite in this game. That would be super cool. Having followed Ingo through the time-space distortion, Emmett ends up here in the old Johto region. Speaking of the old Johto region, of course, cities like Goldenrod are not fully built yet. Olivine Port is just going to be, like a beach area. There's no city there yet. But then older towns like Violet City and Azalea Town and even the Lake of Rage. These areas are prominent features of the Johto region. They'll still be there. The Johto region may even have a different name. It might even be called Sinjo. We don't know yet. Okay, I've got 5 or 6 areas here that I've got written down. So we've got to create some areas. So obviously you've got Ecruteak City as like the hub area, the central point of the region from which a trainer can travel out from. I think what is Azalea Town, the Dark Cave, and Violet City would be like an area where there would be a little town of people. You'd see the Slowpoke well, as it was in the early day. Kurt, or Kurt's ancestor, the creator of Pokeballs, and where this whole idea of apricorns being turned into Pokeballs came from. I really stumbled on that one. And of course, the creation of the Sprout Tower, or perhaps what the Sprout Tower was before it was a Bellsprout place. Maybe it was an early roosting spot for an ancient Lugia or Ho-Oh. I do think a beach-like area where Olivine City will one day be, maybe an old lighthouse is there, and the Whirl Islands, and perhaps even a little island off in the distance that will one day become Cianwood, where people practice ancient Johto medicines. That would be very cool, but definitely having the Whirl Islands in the past would be awesome. Perhaps an area in the center-ish of the region that will one day become kind of National Park and Goldenrod City, that at the moment is just kind of general wilds, but in the middle of it all, the ruins of Alf. We could learn so much more about the ruins of Alf and the unknown. Oh, and of course, the Ilex Forest on the very edge where there's a shrine to Celebi. And then in the top eastern corner of the region, you've got like the Lake of Rage and the Icy Path and Blackthorn City. Perhaps there's even an extra area that leads us to the top of Mount Silver, and at the bottom is some kind of retreat that will later become New Bark Town. I think having Mount Silver is going to be pretty crucial to this. It's going to be this game's equivalent of the mountain. What's it called? Why can't I remember the godly mountain of Legends Arceus? Mount Cornet. Heck, if they wanted to help cover the time before the 30th anniversary comes out, just create 3 or 4 new areas, and you can unlock the ancient Kanto region as DLC the following year, if you want. I think definitely as well we should see the ancestors to Professor Elm and Silver. I think having an ancestor to your rival Silver would be very, very cool. As for the way the story would be here, there's a lot of ways you could go. Obviously, Team Galactic in Legends Arceus became the Galaxy Squad. Maybe something similar is happening here. Maybe in Ecruteak City you take part of the Rocket Survey Corps. The name will one day be reused to create Team Rocket. Or maybe not. Maybe it'd be more likely that you're working alongside the Kimono Sisters, and then out there in the world are the Dragon Clan Masters, who have some kind of difference with them. This causing conflict between the 2 groups of lawkeepers in this ancient Johto region. One of you lovely people, the incredible Tommy Monkhouse, suggested the idea that a lot of the hisuian forms that we see in ancient Hisui are actually like game exclusive Pokemon. So or evolutions of game exclusive Pokemon. So like Braviary was a version exclusive to Black, I believe, or maybe it was White. It was one of them. So was Lilligant, so was Scyther, which of course evolves into Cleavor, so was Ursaring, which is related to Donphan now. We've seen 2 new Donphan forms in the Paradox Donphans that appear in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but for those other ones, we could totally see like an ancient evolution to Pinsir, or a different version of Mandibuzz, or Whimsicott. Great notice, Tommy. I really like this idea. We could see the early GS Ball, and for sure, I think it would be super cool if we saw the origins of the legendary beasts, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. Now, we've recently had the Paradox Walking Wake. I do think we're going to get like an Entei and a Raikou to go along with that, and you can see my video on that. But at the same time, maybe we won't. Maybe these Paradox Pokemon will be appearing as a result of the time-space distortions and cause something to mess up in the story. Maybe even cause the destruction of the towers, which then means these Pokemon are reincarnated into the Raikou, Entei, and Suicune that we know today, or perhaps not. Maybe they'll be completely disconnected. It's possible also that we might see the destruction of the Beta Town that is now the Lake of Rage by Gyarados. We will definitely see, of course, a red Gyarados. I think it'd be really cool to see some kind of Hisuian, Jotonian ancient Gyarados. And again, these Pokemon, by the way, the Hisuian forms and these ancient Johto forms, I think will all sort of be amalgamated into one. So I think we'll see many of those Hisuian Pokemon like Weirdeer, again, here in this game. Also, much how Pokemon Legends Arceus gave new lore to the forces of nature from Unova, there's no reason this game couldn't do the same with another legendary trio. Perhaps it's going to do something with Swords of Justice, explaining why Iron Leaves is a thing at the moment, or maybe not. I can actually see the Johto region getting on really well with doing something with the Latios, Latios and Latias. Maybe a third Lati, or maybe new ancient Hisuian versions. Also, and I've already done a whole video on this, this is a perfect opportunity to explore starter Pokemon, having more sort of of Johto, Unova, and Alolan starters getting new forms. Given what I've said already about the relationship to a potential dragon clan, I think it would be really cool to see a dragon water type Feraligatr, a dragon fire type Incineroar, and a dragon grass type Superior that are all regional variants tied into the ancient dragon lore of this region. And of course, that leaves us open to a future Legends game where we can get a new final starter of each of those trios for Johto, Unova, and Alola. And of course, ultimately, a way to catch Celebi at the end of the game. All of this stuff is like fan favorite stuff. I think none of this stuff is like non-controversially. I think all of this is stuff that people would enjoy. And it really is a case of copy and paste a lot of Legends Arceus into one game, create new areas, do, you know, the story beats and all of that. Obviously, that's still work. It's never going to be a straight copy paste, but it is going to take less time than building up a Johto game in the form of like a Let's Go Johto. I believe that you would be able to do more copy paste work than you would from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee to a Let's Go Johto game, which, by the way, Let's Go was made for the release of Pokemon Go to like galvanize that audience and bring them in. That there isn't that need anymore. It is a guaranteed hit that can release on the Nintendo Switch that people will enjoy, that will sell well, that will be good for the Pokemon reputation, while in the background they're working hard on Generation 10 and the 30th anniversary. I haven't shown you my Ho-Oh and Lugia yet. You saw one of them in the thumbnail. I haven't decided at this point which one. We have Noble Sun, the Ho-Oh of the ancient past. This is the Ho-Oh that is being depicted on the walls of the ruins of Alph. They say that in ancient times the sky was dark till this Pokemon breathed the ball of fire that became the sun. Yeah, I feel that. And you can see it kind of takes inspiration from the shiny variant of Ho-Oh, the gold version as well that you see at the beginning of the anime. And I believe it is going to be Fire Psychic type. I think that's what we'll go for with this one. Or Fire Dragon, maybe. Then we have Iron Ocean, a water dragon Pokemon that is, it's got like little torpedo hands where Lugia normally has its fingers, and I like the idea that in the far future, this Pokemon is used in great wars to decide ocean battles. Whoever has this Pokemon on their side has conquest over the seas. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I think this is a really fun topic, and also a huge thank you, by the way, to today's sponsor, Whatnot, who are linked in the top of the description. Whatnot is a live buying and selling platform. I'm wearing their jumper today as well. These are very comfy jumpers. And on the platform for Whatnot, you can pick up jumpers, or you can pick up collectibles like Pop Funkos or Yu-Gi-Oh cards, or of course, what I go there for, Pokemon cards. I'm often there selling Pokemon cards a couple times a month. It is without a doubt the easiest and fastest way to sell your Pokemon cards, showing them off on live stream to a collector community, which is the best thing about the app, and people can just see exactly what it is they're paying for. No need to worry about, am I listing it right? Is it mint, near mint? Is it used? How should I list this card? You just show it off, people bid what they want to bid. When the timer gets down to 10 seconds, if someone places a bid, the timer resets. And if you're like, you know what, I want to expand my Pokemon card collection, then easily done, because you click that link at the top of the description or scan the QR code on screen, and you're going to get £10 free credit just to use on the platform. And by the way, I get a little bit of an affiliate kickback as well, so thank you very much for the support to everyone who signs up. Make sure you head on over and have my next stream favorited so you'll get a notification when I go live and pick up some cool new Pokemon cards. And thank you to Whatnot for sponsoring this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and of course, so hi Pokemon Masters.
Hello there, it's me, Professor Oak. This video is over, so please choose another one wisely and quickly. Bye-bye.
Just the biggest thank you to those of you who are supporting this channel on Patreon, and a special thank you to the big patrons of the month, Jedruben, Charmander, Anzabal, Anthony Lee, The Elgator, and Michael Hornschuch. Thank you so much.